I am, a big proponent of LinkedIn. I post a lot on LinkedIn, and I'm not BSing people on there. I'm genuinely interested in sharing my knowledge and my opinions on the space that I'm in. A lot of people have been very receptive to that and want to work with me just because of that, and because I'm engaging with them and I'm meeting with people. And I think that's been something that has really helped me. And that, not just on the client side, but also on the retailer side. Just I've had buyers reach out to me and say, hey, I saw you posted about this. Tell me more. Let's jump on a call. I want to learn more.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the 1% Podcast. I'm your host, Vin, and
I'm Shane.
And today we are joined by my man, Matt. Matt, welcome to the show.
Gentlemen, thank you for having me.
Of course, dude. Well, it's such an honor to have you here. Really excited to get into this and showcase your business. What you're currently working on is marketing and helping people get their products into retailers all across America. But I'll let you explain it because I know you'll do better justice explaining your business than I will. So, Matt, talk to the listeners. Tell them a little about what your story is, what you're up to, what you're building, and let's just go from there.
Cool. Appreciate it, Vin. I'm a co-founder and partner at NewGround. We're a sales and marketing agency specializing in helping international consumer brands launch into U.S. retail. Or potentially working with direct-to-consumer businesses as well. I'm sure you see, you walk into the store, you see a lot of products on the shelves, think, oh, it's probably easy to get on there. Turns out it's a lot more difficult than you might expect. There's a lot of steps along the way, and especially if you are not a U.S. company. Obviously, major supply chain compliance challenges that you have to overcome if you're an Australian brand or from the UAE, but also the marketing sales to not only get your products into stores, but then, get them off the shelf, right? There's really a two-pronged approach there. So NewGround helps build that roadmap for brands that have maybe strong product market fit in their home countries or international entrepreneurs that want to come to the US. And then we help them actually achieve those goals in retail with sales and marketing support on the ground, mostly in the beauty personal care space, skincare, hair care, soap, shampoo, those types of things, but also health and wellness as well. And CPG has been a space that I've been in for about 5 or so years. I got the most incredible experience with my former employer, which is a company called Zuru, originally a toy company actually, but since then has really expanded into the consumer goods space. And what I like to say is I got the perfect MBA, being thrown into the weeds there, figuring out how to just learn the game of retail as a sales director in their consumer goods division. So wild experience, had no experience prior to that, came in, had to learn the lay of the land, sell their brands to U.S. retailers, Target, Walmart, Ulta, CVS, Costco, and lots more. And that gave me a lot of confidence in the expertise to then partner up with my co-founders to launch this new agency.
I love it, man. And what was the inspiration? Did you always want to, I don't know anyone who's actually just sat there and said, I always wanted to do exactly what you're doing. But what was the initial thought of the journey you'd be on before the transition?
Yeah, I never really saw myself as an entrepreneur. I had a quick stint in finance, realized that wasn't for me, joined this new exciting consumer goods firm. And I think I saw that fast-paced startup environment. It really spoke to me, the ability to sort of a true meritocracy, I like to say. Basically, the hardest worker, the one that's able to generate the best results, is ultimately going to climb that ladder. And a lot of people say that they want that, but it's a challenging environment to be in. Quite frankly, it is cutthroat. It's not made for everyone. And I think that really, the ability to sort of come in there and be led by an awesome founder and a great C-suite team, and just sort of that gave me the tools and resources that I need to achieve those exciting results for their brands, just gave me the confidence to say, why can't I do this on my own? Why can't I help out others achieve their, the similar goals of bringing these brands to the United States and sort of achieving that quote unquote American dream by selling products in a big box retailer. So yeah, I would, some people are born to be entrepreneurs. I definitely think that's true. For me, it was just something I learned over time. And, I think as I got older, I started to realize, I want to do something on my own. A lot of perks, obviously, of being your own boss, but what I've come to find is that it's a bit more challenging than you might initially expect.
I'm curious, Matt. I love the foundation and the roadmap specifically for people who are trying to get into the U.S. market, but in a society like today, where a lot of things are bought in the comfort of your own home on the cell phone with online and, Amazon and things like that, are you have any plans to actually go to online resources, or is it mainly physical product that you actually have to go to the actual retail location to purchase this?
Yeah, so the rise of e-commerce and social commerce is definitely something that is, very, very top of mind in the industry. E-commerce's share of total commerce is continuing to grow, and probably that trend was made greater through the pandemic a few years ago. But what I think we have seen as well is a bit of a return to normalcy over the last few years of people still seeking out that adventure and that journey with their family into the stores. So I'd say it's a trend that I do see people still going into the stores. But with that said, it's the right type of store and it's the retailers that are winning. I think that the pandemic really opened up a lot of people's eyes and also the market's eyes to who's really winning and losing that brick and mortar retail game. Retailers like Walmart, Target that are, winning on price, winning on value, or Costco, for example, that is, creates that exclusivity with the membership, but also gives you just exceptionally good prices in bulk. Like those are retailers that are poised to win even in an e-commerce, social commerce environment. Or a natural retailer that maybe, with the rise of health and wellness in the wellness economy, right? I think it's like, the wellness economy is worth like over $1 trillion today. And that's only going to continue. So retailers that lean into that, maybe a slightly more affluent demographic, Whole Foods, Sprouts, those types of retailers are going to win versus the likes of a JCPenney and Neiman Marcus, some of these legacy brands that just don't quite have the legs to survive. So I think it's really about just positioning yourself to just make sure that you are in the right space as the market evolves. With that said, one of the things as well that we've tried to focus on in NewGround is that omni-channel approach, the in-store brick and mortar, and then also the retailer-specific e-commerce platform. So Walmart.com, Target.com, Costco.com, all of these e-commerce channels that are small, relative to the likes of Amazon, but are continuing to grow. And these retailers are actually investing billions of dollars into those e-commerce sites, into retail media. So the ability to advertise through those platforms, sponsored search, sponsored ads through those platforms is becoming a huge business. So I'd say it's one, partnering with the right retail partners and making sure that our expertise is with those partners that are going to be around in 5 to 10 years. But it's also approaching these retail opportunities with an omni-channel view, because these retailers have realized they're not going to be able to make it if they can't get that consumer where they are, easily get them to their website as well.
I mean, you're essentially the perfect person for product sales. And I don't know, it sounds like you're very niche specific for this as well. But if I had a product that I was trying to bring into the States on a e-com and retail location, instead of me trying to figure this all out myself and wasting 6 months and learning from failure, I hire you and you show me, okay, this is what you need to do. Here's your game plan of attack. And this is the approach that I would take. That's what everybody should do. So I wanted to get back to this technology aspect here, especially with e-com. And in my vision, I think that's kind of where society is going. Do you have any plans for influencers, people who have millions and millions of followers that are actually selling products? Are you making relationships with them to also promote your customers' products, services, things like that too? Or is it mainly just the actual retail location for e-com or physical brick and mortar?
Yeah, so we, especially for these international companies that don't have boots on the ground here, we try to be a 360 operational sort of workforce team for them. And that does include what I like to call brand marketing, which includes, social digital marketing, influencer marketing, stuff like that. So we can help source talent, source influencers. And what we can do as well is, because we have that retail side as well, is find influencers that have that synergy or an affiliation with a specific retail partner. For example, we have a baby shampoo or baby, shampoo type of product. We can get moms that typically, do content for Walmart. We can tie that to the brand and make a compelling offer to Walmart, saying, hey, we work with, influencers that are affiliated with your stores, with your programs. So it's definitely that 360 approach that we really look to do. And yeah, I think that's totally a good point, because one thing as well is, you think you have a fantastic brand in one market, even if that economy or that culture, let's call it Australia, for example, is relatively similar to the United States, it's an entirely different beast coming here. And just because you're doing amazing one place, that is great, but it doesn't, guarantee you success here as well.
Just one other thing too. First off, Vid and I have plenty of referrals for you, just even off of this last podcast here. So this is exciting. I finally get to send like 3 or 4 your way, which is going to be a knockout of the park.
Always appreciated.
Yeah, but you're. I feel like we're very specific on international. So I know specific companies that are based like in Canada. So, and I also know some that are in America that have, a couple $1 million in revenue that are looking to expand. So are you really only limited to people who are not familiarized with the cultural norms of the United States, or are you taking in pretty much anybody that is needing help and assistance?
Yeah, I mean, I think the more focused you can be, ultimately, the stronger your value proposition can be. So I do try to stay with brands that either don't have a team here, or the U.S. is a secondary or tertiary market for them. If they are selling on Amazon, for example, and they have, they're originally from Japan, then I would still work with them, right? Because they still need that sort of next step to get into retail. With that said, if you or anyone has brands or people, I'm of course willing to provide value where I can for U.S. brands. The product, the services that we provide are not unique to an international company. American brands oftentimes have done a lot of that legwork, which is, I guess, easier for us, but it's less niche. In that sort of generalized either marketing agency or brokerage space is, there's brokers are a dime a dozen. So we're trying to be a bit niche in that regard. With that said, I'll never turn down a conversation. And of course, if you have a strong Amazon brand, that has a strong brand awareness in the United States or a strong presence online, I'm always happy to talk to them.
Matt, what does a good part of the process look like? Let's say I'm someone who's interested and I'm like, hey, I want to get on shelves at TJ Maxx. How do you go about facilitating the ability to deliver and support your client in getting these retail products out?
Yeah, so we have a bit of a framework that we like to look through with regards to potential clients. Ideally, some of that compliance regulatory legwork has already been done. Maybe they're actually selling online in the U.S., but that retail pushes that next sort of frontier for them. If not, we or an affiliate of ours can support them from a legal regulatory compliance perspective. But essentially what we try to do is, if we do, in that initial conversation, is just try to understand exactly what they're trying to achieve here in the United States. Who are those priority retailers in their eyes? What type of brand messaging are they trying to push in the U.S. and how does that align? Is that aligned to their core message in their home country, or is that something that they're looking to differentiate because of the unique market here? We try to have an open conversation with them and understand if they get what they're getting themselves into, let's say, right? And the consequences of potentially really pushing hard, investing real dollars behind a U.S. push, a U.S. launch. So hopefully with that initial conversation, understanding what marketing support they need, what retailers would be ideal for them, we would then build a bit of a roadmap to help them get to that priority retailer. Now, depending on the type of product, depending on the price point, depending on their awareness in the market, that process could be several years long to get to that end goal, or it could be shorter. It depends on the retailer as well. But we try to map it out and then very quickly work with them to understand, okay, here's essentially what this is going to look like. Here's what we need from you. And basically, here's how this is going to go. A lot of it is, kind of a bit of hand-holding in the beginning, making sure that they have all the right sales materials that they need and all their spec information for their products is correct, and a little bit of that legwork. But then it's a lot of hustling on our side to actually start that business development process, whether it's reaching out to influencers or starting marketing campaigns for them in the U.S., for their existing direct-to-consumer business or an existing retail relationship, or it's business development on the sales side, reaching out to buyers at retailers, getting on the phone, cold calling, doing whatever it takes to get in the room, for that next retail opportunity. But there is a little bit of legwork that needs to be done there so that they understand not just how much money it's going to take, but what that margin profile might actually look like when they go to retail. it's quite different than D2C. And one of the biggest learnings I've had is I worked with some masterful D2C Amazon brands that just don't quite understand, how selling to a retailer actually works, how much time is involved, how much money is required to invest behind a brick and mortar launch. So there's a little bit of handholding there and conversation that needs to be had, but hopefully after that smooth sailing, we can help them achieve some of those goals.
I mean, look what you're doing though. Like, let's paint the overall clear picture. I'm hiring a sophisticated team that's been doing this for years and years, that has put a custom plan and roadmap into place, and you're going to do all the work for me. Clearly, that's so valuable, right? It saves me time and energy that I have to spend on the front end of my business so I could focus on quality, more time with the family, whatever that may be, while I'm hiring you to go do everything that you just said. Cold call, get me in front of this person, this company, X, Y, and Z. I mean, that's so crucial of what you do. It's it's so hard to even downplay what you actually provide, because it's amazing, especially for someone who is not familiar with the United States, which is now I understand
Yeah.
why really we're getting outside to the niches here.
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, like brokers, agents are a dime a dozen, but we're trying to offer a bit more of a premium service here. We can, that is of significantly higher value. We are building your brand for you, if we're being honest, right? And so it gives you obviously a lot of opportunity to go and live your life, but also these are people that are running a business already in their home country sometimes, right? And if they're running a business in the UK, they don't have the time to fly over here and learn everything. So if they can, pay a retainer or commission or some combination of both, and sort of have someone that they trust, that has experience, that has the know-how, then it can put their mind at ease, especially, when they're not here. Of course, if you are here, and you maybe you're already running a business here, it's still helpful, but it's those people that, have a successful business that want to potentially export that into a new market, the biggest economy in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, that's business economics 101, right? Hire smarter people than you to do the shit for you so you can focus on whatever it is that you want to do. Yeah, I love that. So I know how you got into it and you were essentially working for it. What's the long-term plan here? Or is it to branch out into other niches? I like the staying outside of the United States as far as the country wise, and I know you're niche specific to health and wellness and beauty. What's the? I know that's probably like a common question here, but what's the goals for 5 years or for world domination?
Yeah, so I'd say the primary objective is to become a one-stop shop for brands, either domestic or foreign, that want to scale their business in the United States. I'd like to stay in that beauty and health and wellness, personal care space as much as possible, but eventually expanding that out to where we could have full service marketing. We could have a talent division that potentially could be intertwined. You sort of mentioned earlier about the influencers. If we could have some sort of division there where we could easily pull influencers in, either for brand deals, one-off brand deals or equity deals, whatever that might be. It could be potentially, integrating a social commerce element into the business as well. Again, to tie that full omni-channel flywheel together. If the brand's doing well on TikTok, we can sell it on TikTok Shop, which means it can do better on Walmart. Like, there's clearly a synergy across the board there. I think the challenge is sort of how do we get there? I want to be exceptional at one or two things to start, and then from there we can grow. There's so many distractions, especially when you're talking to other entrepreneurs, you're on LinkedIn and stuff like that. Everyone's doing amazing. You're like, oh my God, I should start that business and that business. But I think if we're targeted and we just stay patient and we slowly, we prove each model, we prove each thing that we can do, and then we slowly expand from there, we'll get there eventually.
You mentioned that for your current business model, and obviously as you mentioned that it's very difficult retailers, right? And so question to you is, one of the things that I've come to learn about life is that relationships are rocking. They'll get you everywhere you want to go. Is there a big component of having to have good relationships to help basically drive people over the finish line? Or is it something that virtually anybody could do as long as they keep hammering away? Like, what's your interpretation of how you can simply get people in there? What it makes you so capable of doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone could call someone 1,000 times and knock on the door and be persistent and maybe get the result that they want. Some people don't even need to do that. If the brand is exceptional, you call once, and the retailer comes running, right, for in those odd occasions that you have the next big thing, right? But relationships are very important, especially because a lot of these buyers, the individuals that are the ones that are actually buying the products at these retailers for different categories, they tend to stay at these retailers for quite a bit of time, or jump from retailer, or jump to different categories. And if you have a relationship there, it's very important to hold that dearly and not lose it. And so I think that's something that over time I definitely took for granted at the beginning of my career at my former employer, and even sometimes I've taken for granted in my current role, how incredibly important it is, because it could be the type of thing, it could be the difference between a yes and a no. And I know that sounds crazy because these are products that are going to be sold to millions of Americans, but if you have that that one relationship, or you sent that thank you note, the handwritten card, or you called and you made sure that you got them, you gave them a gift for Christmas, that or whatever that is that you're technically legally allowed to do without bribing them, then that can make the difference. So it is a bit of persistence, it's a bit of hustle, of course, but it also is recognizing that this relationship has been, a lot of these brick and mortar relationships have been built on relationships. Some of the most successful companies sort of in this sales, in a retail marketing space are 50, 60, 70-year-old companies that were started over handshake agreements a long time ago. And so I think even as we evolve into this more e-commerce, social commerce space, those relationships and the power dynamic is still going to, lean towards some of those old school individuals and those old school relationships. So absolutely imperative if you want to, to succeed in this business.
I know Vin's already going to talk about the 99% here and the 1%, but Matt, 99% of people won't do those calls. They won't give it that extra effort. That's the difference, right? Is you will give it everything you can to make it boom. Anyways, just wanted to throw that one comment in there.
I love how you projected that onto me and then went to
That's
talk
a good
about the whole
one.
thing.
You're the coach on that one too. You always talking about, upbeat. You're the 1% pushing that up there. I'm learning from Vin here, so it's coming on.
Yeah, good. Glad I'm having an impact on some people.
Always, buddy.
So, Matt, what would you say? It's interesting, right? I know what it takes to build relationships, and I know what it takes to build a business, and I know both of those are equally difficult. What would you say has been one of the biggest constraints that you've come across in either building business, establishing these amazing relationships, or a bit of both? What's a massive thing you've had to figure out?
Yeah, I think there's two things that really come to mind at first. It's also building the relationship on the client side as well. We're promising a lot, right? Especially if we're more hands-on, they're expecting a lot out of us. And I think just managing expectations, being upfront and honest with them from the start, not saying yes, learning how to say no to certain opportunities is very important. And it's been a great learning experience for me. Just because, when you're starting out and you want to grow your business, you see the recurring revenue number, monthly revenue number, you get excited, and but if you can't actually deliver the results or actually, differentiate yourself with what you're able to achieve, then you're just sort of churning, right? You're churning through new clients, and it's not really beneficial for anyone. So I think it's being honest with ourselves about what we're able to do, what we want to do, and how, and the value that we're giving to clients, and also really opening up that communication. I think that's been more challenging than expected, because again, you can't guarantee retail placement, but it's hard to say you've succeeded without it, right? So, and there's obviously a ton that we can do from the awareness side, from the marketing side, but the golden egg is product, them in a shopping cart, taking a picture outside the store with their hands up, screaming and celebrating because they got into the retailer, right? So if you can't deliver that, it's tough. So that would be one thing. And the other thing is how long the retail game is. It's very old school, traditional. A lot of the retailers won't only reset the category, the beauty category, the hair care category, the vitamins category once a year. So if you don't get it once that year, you got to wait another 12 months. And they're also reviewing that category 6 to 9 months before the product actually sets it sets on the shelf. So that's another thing that I've sort of realized. I want to go. I want to help my clients. I want to share all this exciting information with these buyers about these cool products. Having a bit of patience and knowing when to push and when not to push, and how to lean on certain relationships and not lean on them, has been a really impactful experience for me. It's something that I think I've learned a lot from. So those are the two things I think that are top of mind every day that you really have to deal with in this space.
I'm just curious, I guess the big question that really comes up with all of this is how long? Obviously, this has been one hell of a journey for you, right? You've gone from building, transitioning to knowing where to be, and how long does it take, and how were you able to position yourself in this way? Like what finally got people to realize you're the expert, you're the go-to, you're the guy? And like what was there a track record of proving yourself? Like how does that transition? Because I find that there usually is like this. You have to take the time to show that you could do the thing before people might even take a chance on you. Like how does that whole thing develop?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was fortunate to be in the position that I was in my previous employer, where I was able to achieve wins that, I earned, but, within the broader context of being a part of a big team, right? I spearheaded some success stories and some wins. So I think I leaned on that at first. But now it's just stacking those wins. It's stacking those wins and proving your success, but it's also being a thought leader in the space. I found really impactful. I am, a big proponent of LinkedIn. I post a lot on LinkedIn, and I'm not being BSing people on there. I'm genuinely interested in sharing my knowledge and my opinions on the space that I'm in. That's been a lot of people have been very receptive to that and want to work with me just because of that, and because I'm engaging with them and I'm meeting with people. And I think that's been something that has really helped me. And that, not just on the client side, but also on the retailer side. Just I've had buyers reach out to me and say, "Hey, I saw you posted about this. Tell me more. Let's jump on a call. I want to learn more." I think the buyers oftentimes want to look for brands or strategic partners, in my perspective, as the thought leaders, as the experts in the space. And so if I can show that I am and do the work and do that research and communicate that to the public, then that is inherently valuable. And so I've leaned on that, and I've sort of saw that work. I've generated a ton of my business just because of what I'm posting online. And so that's been something as well that has really helped catapult me into being into NewGround, being a premier, player in this space.
Man, if this is your first 1% podcast, you need to subscribe right now, and you need to watch on these previous episodes here, because Matt, you're spot on here. We were talking about, faceless companies, and this transition of social media, especially since COVID, has just completely changed. When I first started my company, it was successful because everybody was transitioning from in-house employees to virtual because COVID. They had to consider other options. But my business got to a point where it was stagnant and I needed to do something different. So now I'm also posting on LinkedIn. I'm also putting a face onto my business and essentially giving value instead of just taking. And they're asking more questions. And this is the way that things need to be done now. They need to be the leaders of the industry. They need to give value instead of just asking and taking and here's a landing page, give me your information. That's not an effective way of marketing anymore. If you're looking to get into any space of entrepreneurship or owning your own business, you need to be on LinkedIn. You need to be on social profiles. You need to get your face out there, do videos, make posts, give value. This is the way we're in. This is the industry that we're in.
Yeah, no, I could not agree more. I mean, I think especially LinkedIn as well. I mean, look, it depends on the type of it's huge. And also that's where the thought leaders are. That's where the CEOs are. That's where the decision makers are. It depends on your industry, right? Like if you are doing something that is more socially relevant or just naturally a social media business, then maybe TikTok is the space for you. And even in CPG, there's a lot of creator-led, creator-founded businesses are gaining a lot of traction as well. But as someone that is trying to bring on business clients, those business clients are looking on LinkedIn all the time at what everyone else is doing. And so if I can kind of peek through there and with a post once or twice a week, and yes, it's a little bit cringy. You kind of have to get over that. But once you realize that, there's money to be had there and people actually really are seeking out value and opinions about things that are, relevant to them, then I think it completely opens the door for you. So I would encourage everyone that's listening, if you are in that space, to just start posting. And there's a lot of tools that can help you, so it's not as hard as it looks.
That is the only difference between the 1% to the 99%. Nike, I've said it 100 times here. You can't sue me. All right, I'm calling you out. Just do it. Just do it. Go out there and do it. That's the only difference between the 1% and the 99% is we are doing something. Go out there and do it, or bitch and complain and don't do it.
No, I would agree. And I think it's funny that you say that because with something like LinkedIn, it's a no-brainer for me. But I actually do, I think a lot of people struggle with it. Like I do struggle with some things in my day-to-day where I'm just like, God, I don't want to do that. Or like, this is a new potential business opportunity for me, new business line. I don't really know as much about it. Should I, that retailer or TikTok shop, should I do it? Yes. The only thing that's stopping me from becoming an expert is my doubt, my self-doubt. So if I can overcome that, then the world's my oyster, And if I look at what everyone else has done that's on these platforms posting, they had that moment too. That shoot, should I post it? Yes. And okay. What did that tell me? It told me that it's okay. Boom, post again. So yeah, it's something that everyone's just sort of got to overcome.
I mean, we were talking about intuition versus emotion on this last podcast. Sorry, Vin. I love you, buddy. It's just, Matt's spitting out hot fire right now.
No, have fun.
And no, but we're I feel like that's like the base, the foundation principles of entrepreneurship, right? We're talking about intuition versus emotion on the previous podcast and going with your gut feeling if you think it's a good idea. Regardless, that's what business and success is made from, is by failure, is by learning what you've done wrong so you're not going to do it again. So regardless of the decision that you made, you realize it and you're saying, okay, I'm going to do this next time, or I did this. I definitely don't want to do this again. Let's stay away from that. So I just wanted to reiterate that statement.
I love that. Matt, I'm curious too. What has been something that has been massively helpful in helping you achieve a higher performing mindset? Like, how do you keep yourself grounded, focused? What are some of the massive things that helps you as an entrepreneur? Like, somebody wants to get into entrepreneurship and they're struggling with that mindset component. What would you tell them?
I would tell them a few things that have worked for me. One is building routines outside of my work life that provide me with consistency and also mental clarity and calm, that I can have every day at the same time, ideally, that allow me to, manage that stress or the general day-to-day of being an entrepreneur, the fires you're putting out, the alarms that are going off. For me, that's working out, 4 to 5 days a week at the crack of dawn. I hate to do it, but it's once I'm there, I'm absolutely in love with the fact that I'm in love with myself, that I got myself to the gym. It's an amazing feeling. Mm-hmm. I'm pumped up and I'm ready to go, and I'm back home and most people aren't even up yet. So that's an amazing win for me. That's providing obviously physical strength and nourishment, but also mental clarity and mental nourishment as well. It's eating regular meals every day for me. Like as in this sort of entrepreneurial phase, I've become very focused on my diet and staying healthy there. And that's something that's really important to me now. So, if there's things like that I can do that will, I guess, almost help insulate or protect me from the fires of being an entrepreneur and the challenges that come every day, I find that to be really helpful. For some people, it's meditation. For some people, it's reading. For some people, it's journaling. One other thing as well is I try to give myself between 30 and 60 minutes a day to be the CEO of myself. I have my own company, or I'm a partner in this company, and a lot of the day I'm in the weeds of the company. I'm doing things, I'm helping people out, I'm doing tasks for clients, but I find that if when I give myself time to be the CEO of myself, which could involve quote unquote CEO activities for the business, but it also could be me just doing other stuff, talking to my family, making doctor's appointments, buying furniture for my new apartment, whatever that is, that's really important for me as well. I'm prioritizing my day. So that's been really helpful for me. And yeah, I would encourage everyone else that's listening, if you're on this journey, to try to set boundaries for yourself. I know it's tough and there's a lot on you, there's a lot of stress, but if you can prioritize certain things that really work for you outside of the work life, then, I think your productivity will significantly increase.
Good advice.
So Matt, we are getting relatively close to the end here. So we've got a few last questions for you, my man. One of the big questions is the signature question we like to ask everyone. Podcast is formed with the ideology that being a 1%er doesn't just mean you might be a billionaire. It means that you're striving to achieve some form of excellence. You have a desire to live a life that most people never see and only dream of. The question that we have for you is, what is your version of a 1% life? How do you strive to?
Yeah, so I think it's a couple of things. I think it's living up to what I deem as my full potential, pushing myself, and really, just pushing myself every day and giving it my all. Not to the point where I'm passing out or I'm not a good person outside of work because I'm so upset, but just giving, doing what I think is the most, and really being proud of the work that I'm doing, and also the consistency I think is really important. Whether life is like this, right? There's ups and downs, but if you can be consistent with what you're doing and have your why, a big thing that I've been focusing on a lot recently is that why. If you can be true to that why, then you're living the dream. And yeah, you might be making, it doesn't matter if you're making $25 million a year or 25,000, but if you have that core value system and that direction and you're not exhausting yourself every day, I think you're living the dream. And with that, I'd say is freedom of time and as well. I think that would be amazing, to sort of achieve that flexibility and that true wealth, which is obviously health and monetarily, but also just having the ability to wake up every day excited to do whatever you want to do and not be controlled by the man and have the ability to just live the life that you want to live.
I love that, man. I think ultimately the biggest thing that we all become entrepreneurs for is because of the fact that we want some freedom, right? Like, people think that entrepreneurs are hungry for money, and to some degree we are, but we're hungry for money because of what money gives us, right? It's not about I just want money for the sake of it. It's I want money because it will give me the freedom over my time, the ability to spend my life where I want, how I want, with who I want. And money's really I love your answer, because that is kind of the crux of what it is to be an entrepreneur. Like, we're doing it because we want to master our schedule. Absolutely love it. Matt, last and final question. Where can people connect with you? How can they find you? If they wanted to potentially work with you in a professional capacity, where should they go? What should they do? And let people know how can they connect and what would be a good way for them.
Yeah, of course. The name of my company is NewGround. The website is www.wearenewground.com. If that's too hard to remember, just follow me on LinkedIn. I'm posting there a couple times a week, pretty active, connecting with a lot of people, getting on calls, grabbing coffees in New York. So, shoot me a DM and we can chat. Anything retail, consumer, I'm all ears and love to learn more. So that's usually the platform where I'm probably on too much during the day, but that's where you're going to find me.
Love it. Well, Matt, thanks so much for coming on, sharing about your journey, your company, and providing some really valuable insights. Stick around for about a minute or so after we finish the recording. We've got a few things to tell you. People, you heard it here. If you need to get your product onto shelves, into businesses that may or may not be easy to get into, anything at all, you reach out to Matt, because he's the guy who's got your back, and he'll get you the know-how, the connections, and the business. So don't sleep on this, to all you listen. As always, like, share, follow, subscribe, connect with us, comment, let us know what you thought, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm your host, Vin.
And I'm Shane.
And that was Matt. See you, everybody.
Bye,
Thanks, guys.